What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the RGVSports.com football podcast. My name is Brian Ramos,
I'm Ivan Palacios.
And I'm Edward.
and here we are with another episode, man. Week two in the books as the Texas high school football season is off and rolling, man. And it ain't slowing down for nobody, man. Guys, your thoughts on the week two in the books, and now as we get into recap last week's games and look ahead towards that week three slate. What are some of your instant takeaways coming off of week two?
Economies, man, they look hot. They put up over 70 points against Porter. And, we talked about them before the season started. And, we thought they were a team to look out for. And early on, they've passed the eye test. Obviously not the toughest opponents to start. But, when you put up 70 plus points on someone, very impressive. So, shout out the Jaguars, man. We're starting to see who's a contender, who's kind of separated themselves from the pack. And early on, Jaguars look like they might be a contender out there in 31-6A, man.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, Jaguars look like the real deal this year. Edward, what are some of your takeaways coming off of week two?
Oh, well, I cover 5A D2, so the 5A D2 so far, the Valley teams are 17-5, and we got three in the top 10. We got Mercedes, Sharyland High, Sharyland Pioneer, so those teams are really punching above their weight. 5A D2, a little bit less numbers than some of these 5A D1, 6A schools, and they've competed well against a bunch of good teams in the Valley. And so, like I said before, hopefully we can get somebody in 5A D2 to make a long run. And it's kind of building up to maybe one of those teams could do it this year, especially the three front runners, Mercedes, Sharyland High, Sharyland Pioneer. But Mason Vets is playing good football too. And so, it's going to be pretty interesting how those two districts play each other and how, the representatives from the Valley could do against up north competition, especially in the playoffs.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of Valley teams facing some competition from up north. District 15 5A D1 gets started this week, so we're going to see some Valley teams against some Coastal Bend teams here. They're coming up with Flower Bluff and Corpus Christi veterans, which we'll get into once we dive into that week three slate. But before we get there, we're going to run through the latest RGVSports.com top 10 poll. At the 5A, 6A level and the sub 5A top five poll, which we got coming to you weekly. And guys, not too much movement. Teams doing what we thought they'd do, but I think we had one big shocker of the week that resulted in one team taking a tumble down the standings, but still hanging in there. And why don't we get started? At the top, PSG North. That's no surprise to anybody. The Raiders are the Raiders, and they rolled last week to a win over PSG High in the Tri-City Classic. And yeah, they're just a machine, man. You know what I mean? They keep on rolling, and they don't look like they're slowing down this year at all. No step back, injuries and all. Man, you know what I mean? They got ballers, and when the baller goes down, they got another baller coming off the bench. So that's what PSG North does. And then that leads us into our numbers. Actually, two through four take us to the 6A level. Ivan, that's your coverage area there, the 6A level. Why don't you break us down through these two through four teams?
Well, number two holds strong, man. The Los Fresnos Falcons, they improved to 2-0. They've been tested early, man. They drew a tough MAC high squad and a surprising road team there in week two as well. But, I think what separates a good team from a great team is how they handle that adversity. And both times, Los Fresnos has found ways to win, man. So they stay at number two. They got a playmaker in Robert Pineda, which you got to give a shout out to, man. He surpassed 100 career touchdowns this past weekend. He's up to 103 on his career, closing in on 10,000 career yards, too, man. What a baller. And as long as he's there behind center, these Falcons are going to be one of the top teams in the Valley. So, they've been tested, like I said, but they have found ways to win. So they stay there at number two. And just to keep things rolling here, we talk about a number three team. They've been rising each week. They opened at number five in our season. They went up one spot last week, another spot this week. Weslaco High, they move all the way up into that number three spot. And, just like the Falcons, they found a way to win last week. We'll get a little more into their game here in a bit, but the Panthers look like a legit team there in 31-6A. Definitely the favorites there out in the district, and they got athletes all across the field from Chris Luna, Malachi Rodriguez, Joseph Leal on defense. They got Ray Crostro, just playmakers all across the board. So definitely one of the top teams. And our number four team, the Brownsville Veterans, do drop a spot, but not because they did anything wrong. It's just the other teams in front of them. They've been playing lights out, and that's the Brownsville Veterans Chargers, man. They had a big game this week against, there. It's become a little rivalry there with Brownsville St. Joseph, and they avenged that loss, and they look solid, man. Obviously, we knew Cesar Belmonte was going to be a monster. Another three touchdown game this past week, over 160 yards. But how about Calvin Trevilli, man? That kid has come on strong, has about 11, 12 carries, over 200 yards. I mean, the kid's averaging almost 20 yards a carry. So, add in Jake Sines at quarterback, and these Chargers look for real, man. So, we didn't know what to expect after they graduated their quarterback, but they look like they're ready to, be one of the best once again. The job JC Ramirez has done there is just an amazing job. So, that takes us, like I said, two through four, Los Fresnos, Wesleyan, and Brownsville Vets, and just to kind of keep the ball rolling. Edward, I mean, these next three squads are teams that
Mm.
you talked about already, over in the 5A D2 level. I mean, what can you tell us starting off with the number five team?
Mercedes, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that's not a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mercedes. Again, we've been talking about them all year. Pretty much, right? They took care of business against Donna. Something you like to see 33-0, right? Something like beat them pretty handily. They've been getting a lot of people involved, not just some of the players that we profiled in the beginning of the season. So their team, that's we have really high, like we said, we've had really high expectations. They got some good games coming up too still. And then Sharyland High and Sharyland Pioneer next on our rankings. Um, who's first? Pioneer or Sharyland
Yeah.
High? Who
Sure.
got the
The Rattlers.
Sharyland High? Yeah, Calvin Harris has completed 70% of his passes already this year. So that's a really high number for high school. You know what I'm saying? Like football for a quarterback, if you're in that range, um, you're taking care of the ball. He has one pick, but he's thrown six touchdowns, 484 yards passing. Solid. He's getting the ball to a bunch of different receivers. They were able to, take care of Hannah this week with a couple injuries, and Hannah's 6A school, and they got a lot of kids, a lot of big kids. We saw them at media day. They had some pretty good size, so that's a really impressive win. You're going up to basically two divisions, pretty much like three maybe, divisions really. And Sharyland Pioneer, another team that we've talked about. They've been able to run the ball really well this year. They have like over 800 and something yards rushing in two games. That means that they're putting up 400 rushing yards a game. And if you take care of the ball, you take care of the clock, you're going to win football games. So again, we're really excited about these 5AD2 teams. Um, Pioneers running that two quarterback system. Goodlow's been getting the ball in a lot of different ways, receiving yards, rushing yards. He's throwing the ball, and Galindo, the other quarterback, he is also 68. He's completed 68% of his passes, 17 for 25 on the season. So again, taking care of the ball, moving it well, not taking any risks. That's things you want, quarterbacks to do at all levels, right? Like even in the NFL, you see what happens if you don't take care of the football. So these guys play some really tough teams coming up too, but they can win these games. And yeah, just pass it off to you, Brian. Next on our list.
Yeah, that only one team, McAllen Memorial, comes in at number eight, and they played another top 10 squad. So they drop a couple spots, but hey, man, they went toe to toe with
Mhm.
Wesco High, and Ivan will give you a breakdown of that game and just what a thriller it was. So McAllen Memorial Mustangs not going to knock them too much for that one. Um, Mustangs still got a really good squad this year, and we saw it going up against one of the best teams here in the Valley this past
Mhm.
weekend. And I mean, Ivan, you kind of opened up with them. Our number nine team, the Edinburgh Economy, these Jaguars, and just what they've been doing this year. So yeah, Jaguars doing some really good things here, earning some respect coming in at number nine.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, the Jaguars, we expected a lot from them. They
Mhm.
brought back a lot of groups of guys from last year. And, this last week they rushed for almost 500 yards. They had eight different guys find the end zone. I mean, just an all-around performance by the Jaguars. And I think these early season wins are important for them. They build that momentum, that confidence. So, they've kind of climbed the ranks, and, it's going to get a little tougher, obviously. You got those district games coming up in a couple weeks, but, the Jaguars are rolling right now, and, we're impressed so far, and let's see how far they can keep this thing going, man. And just to round out our top 10, Brian, we move back to the 5A D1 level with what can you tell us about these last two teams? One that's coming off a shocking loss, to be honest.
Yeah, two teams tied at number 10, both from District 16 5A D1. That is the Edinburgh Bella Sabercats and the McKellen High Bulldogs. Mackay, of course, 1-1. They lost a close one to Los Fresnos in week one, then bounced back in a big way last week against PSG Memorial. gave up a score early and then really shut them down the rest of the game. Dropped 50 points on PSM Memorial. So Matt Kai looks like a wagon this year. And then Edinburgh Vela, as we alluded to, yeah, they suffered a shocking loss to say the least against Edinburgh High, something that hasn't been done since the 2013 season. The second year, the last time Edinburgh High beat Edinburgh Vela prior to this season was Vela's first year of varsity ball back in 2012. So no school, Edinburgh school, had beaten uh, Edinburgh Vela in over 10 years, and Edinburgh High gets it done this week. So the Sabercats, they tumble all the way from, I believe it was number 5 all the way to tied for the 10th spot. And yeah, I mean the SaberCats, man, they opened up with a really big, impressive win there in week one, 38-2 over Edinburgh North, really shut them down, and then Edinburgh High. But I think that this loss, Edinburgh High has a really good defense. We've seen them, I saw them in person there against Mercedes week one. Edinburgh High's only loss uh, was to Mercedes 21-7. Edinburgh High opened up in our top 10 poll at number 10 for a reason. We know they're a good team, and they have some really good pieces back on both sides of the ball, but that defense was really the game changer there against Vela and what made the difference. So Vela takes a tumble there in the top 10, but they're still hanging on there inside our top 10 rankings. And now we'll dive into the sub 5A top 5 rankings, guys. And one of these teams, I mean, at the top spot will be featured in our game of the week, and that's the La Feria Lions coming in at number 1, guys. Just your thoughts on La Feria and what they've done early on.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Foster's done a great job there. Last year, he got them to the playoffs. They earned a share of the district title, and they look like they really bought into that system there. I mean, they got a senior running back in Titus Guzman who's playing really well, a sophomore too, and Noah LaFleur who's kind of spelled him. He's got over 108, almost 180 yards, I think 5 or 6 touchdowns through 2 weeks. I mean, just an impressive team all around. Quarterback JD Martinez is doing a good job there behind center, and they started the season. I think they were in our top 5, maybe around 4, but they've climbed their way to number 1. They've hold that spot for the past 2 weeks, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can, hold on to that top spot because they got a top 5 matchup coming their way, like you mentioned, and we'll dive into that one a little later. But kind of continue off of there, we have 2 teams tied for number 2 in our power rankings, and that's Lyford and Rio Hondo. I mean, Edward, what do you know about Lyford? And I'll tell us a little bit about Rio Hondo after I got to see him this week.
And we have what's it called, Raymondville right underneath too, right?
Raymondville
So it's
comes
all
in
that
at number
same
4.
district.
Yeah.
Man, all those kids are good football players up there. And those Lyford picked up another win this week. Um, I haven't really been able to, what I'm saying? We haven't seen them. They beat Lavia. I know Lavia had like an injury, right? They had like Felix was out, so or didn't I? What I'm saying? Sometimes we don't necessarily
Yeah.
get the full details. If we don't see that they have a stat line, then it's kind of hard to judge. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like right now, if you don't take any losses, you're going to be in our top 5 in the sub 5A because they have to punch above their weight, right? Like some of these sub 5A teams are playing like bigger schools. I know they play Porter this week, which should be an interesting game. But I got some stats for Lyford real quick for you guys. They got a couple quarterbacks. They got Gonzalez and Garza. Um, Ryan Gonzalez, he's 7 for 11 this year so far, 111 yards. So not bad. 1 touchdown. The other quarterback, 5 for 8, 110 yards. So kind of similar situations we see with other teams, like working out a couple quarterbacks. Like maybe in district, they stick to one quarterback. They're running the ball a lot. Just looking at their stats, 335 yards in 2 games, but they have like 12 different ball carriers. You look at their stats, there's like guys with like 20 yards, 20 yards, 20 yards, 20 yards. So it's kind of hard to judge Lyford right now. They've been taking care of business though. They beat a good PI team, or that we thought was better. That PI team did graduate a lot, like we talked about along the lines, offensive, defensive line. They have some good skill players, all right. Like that should be able to win the ball games. But took care of business against BI, took care of business against a team that always has good playmakers at Livia. So they have a pretty decent game though against Brownsville Porter this week. Brownsville Porter was losing to the Economies 14-15 at the end of the first quarter, which is pretty That's you did good for one quarter against like one of our top 10 teams with like a bunch of they ended up losing by like 60, but they were that first quarter though,
They hung around for a bit.
you got to
They kept it interesting.
take
Yeah.
away some positives. So Lyford has a decent test against Porter. Like that should be a pretty even game, even though Porter's a 5A school, but um Coach Hadigi and like and those coaches over there, they've always had coached up good kids, and they're always in or around our top five. And I'm really excited for that district to really pop off.
Yeah, just to kind of piggyback off that, another team in that district, the Rio Hondo Bobcats, they're 2-0, man. They took care of business too against Puerto
Hmm.
Rico. We'll talk a little bit about more of that game, but I think what impressed me about the Bobcats is how young they are. I mean, they got a junior at quarterback starting, taking over for Ruben Atkinson, who was there for a long time. Their running back's a junior. The receivers are a mix of sophomore, juniors. I think they might have one senior on there. Defensive side of the ball, it's the same thing. So they're a young team, but they're playing really well to start the season. And I talked to Coach Rocky James after that win, and he said he's excited about it, man. He's like, because the most exciting part is that they're only going to get better. He's like, they're not playing to their full potential, and they're young, and they're still making some mistakes. So I mean, if they're playing this well right now, I'm excited to see not just what this year holds for this Real Hondo team, but next year. And so that's number tied for second in our list with the Lyford Bulldogs, the Real Hondo Bobcats, and at number four is another team that's coming into our, is playing in this week's game of the week. That's the Raymondville Bearcats. They were tied for second last week. They do drop down two spots. Nothing that they did wrong because they took care of business themselves too. They picked up, I think, 41-6 win against Gruya, if I'm not mistaken. And, they're undefeated as well. And I think a big part of it is one, the coaching. Coach Littleton's there. And, we saw what he did at PSU Memorial. And now he's kind of doing the same thing there with the Raymondville team that struggled in years, but also that running back, Trayshawn Washington, man, leads the league in rushing, or leads the valley in rushing through two games. He's over 450 yards, six touchdowns. The kid's just, the kid can play, man. So only a junior too. I think he was at Goliad before. Now he's over here at Raymondville, and he's balling out for Raymondville. So it's going to be interesting to see how they match up there at La Feria. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that game, but just to round out our top five. Just to round out our top five here, we end with Santa Rosa, who has, in my opinion, flown under the radar a little bit for us. We haven't really talked about them that much, but they're a really good squad there. I mean, Coach Marichelat does a good things there. Riley Fonseca, second year at quarterback after moving for receiver, and they've taken care of business, in pretty convincing manner the first 2 weeks. So, you know, just a really, really, I think the sub 5A teams are really good this year, man. I mean, we've got a lot of undefeated teams, and like you mentioned, Edward, they punch up in their weight early on. They play whoever they can play. Sometimes games are hard to come by. So, you know, um, any last thoughts on our sub 5A teams, Edward, Brian?
Yeah, Santa Rosa plays La Villa this week, so if La Villa's key players get a little healthy or something, that should be a competitive game. But yeah, Fonseca has been balling 194 rushing yards, three touchdowns on the ground, three passing touchdowns, only one pick. So take care of the ball, 191 passing yards. Santa Rosa ex basketball town now, right? They're going to be a football town, so we'll see what's up. There's a lot of good teams. La Feria's and wins have been impressive. Ingleside, what an impressive win. A lot of people thought they were going to get that Ingleside was just going to come over here and beat them. So I'm pretty excited. I know we'll talk about the game of the week, I guess, a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But we're excited for that game. Really excited for La Feria Raymondville.
Yeah, that should be a good one. And then now that we broke down the top 10 and the top five at the sub 5A level, I mean, time to recognize the RGVSports.com players of the week. Our offensive player of the week, Edward, you were there to see him in person, make
Yeah,
some magic happen. That is Bronzo Rivera quarterback, Ivan Rodriguez.
yeah, it was a crazy game. 45-44 against Edinburgh North. The the poise, you know what I'm saying? Like the ability to make those plays and stuff. And, he threw some really good passes. There's that the game tying touchdown technically before, or you know what I'm saying? Like to put him down within one. He had to step up in the pocket. He had to feel the blitz and delivered a perfect strike. And it didn't look like the pass was gonna be there, but it opened up late. And like I don't know, he has a good partnership with Alex Garza, one of the receivers out there, and Ivan Rodriguez, just balled out, run the ball, everything. And got those 2 points to win, 2 points to tie. He was amazing, and yeah, he's our offensive player of the week.
Yeah, his numbers just to quickly run through them: 6 of 13 for 121 yards, 3 TDs passing, 20 carries, 151 yards on the ground, 2 TDs rushing, and then as you said, Edward,
Yeah,
the two-point
it's really
conversion.
those big, yeah, those big plays. Really, you know what I'm saying? Like he made the plays, and got them their first win, and got Coach Johnny Garza his first win at Rivetta. So pretty exciting moment for them. They got to play Corpus Christi Vets this week, so. But
Yeah,
hey, but Corpus Christi Vets have, struggled. They lost
It's a
to
loss,
Carroll the other
hey.
day. They lost
Lost
to
to
Carroll,
Carroll
yeah.
last week,
So
hey.
who knows, Maybe
yeah,
they can go over there and build some momentum off of that and, just try and make some plays, That's what it's all about, sometimes.
yeah. Here come the Raiders, man. So yeah, Coach Garza on that win, man. That's huge. And then to jump to the defensive side, the RGVSports.com defensive player of the week, Cuauhtemoc Labastida, Mission Veterans inside linebacker. Ivan, I mean, this guy was everywhere in week 2, and he flies to the ball, and when he gets there, the ball carriers feel it.
Yeah, man. I mean, what a performance by him. You talk about a stat sheet stuffer. I mean, 12 total tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Let's not forget, he also kicked a 45-yard punt and an extra point, man. The kid did it all this week for the Patriots. And, he helped them improve to 2-0 is the biggest thing. I mean, the Patriots are undefeated right now after, last year was a little bit of a struggle, but they look really good early on. And, they have a guy like him at inside linebacker making some plays. It's just an all around performance. I mean, you got to see him play week 1. I'm sure he made some plays then too, but just what an outstanding performance. I mean, Mission Vets is known for producing these big time linebackers, these big time playmakers. It looks like he's the next one in line there, at Mission Vets. So congrats again to Cuauhtemoc Labastida from Mission Vets, senior linebacker. What a performance. And, congrats on the win too, man. You take down Ed Couch 34-24 in that one.
Yeah, yeah, big win for the Patriots, who are 2-0, matched their win total from last season already here in week 2. So shout out to Coach Gilpin and the Patriots getting that done, and of course Cuauhtemoc Labastida for getting it done and leading the Patriots defensively. Really good defense there at Mission Veterans. And then Ivan, I mean, well, let's get into our week 2 recap. I mean, there were a few notable games that we'll dive into, but I mean, for the most part. I think things kind of played out how we thought, aside from some big names, including the Harlingen, the Edinburgh Velas, and of course our game of the week, McCown Memorial and Westaco High. That was the best game on the slate last week, the RGV Sports game of the week, and I think it lived up to the name. Ivan, you were there. Just take us into what went down Friday night between the Mustangs and the Panthers in a real classic.
Yeah, man, just a playoff atmosphere from start to finish. A little bit of a slow start for both teams. They only trade field goals in the first quarter, but second quarter, these offenses roar to life. They just trade touchdowns. You know, uh, Weslaco High scores first, McCall Memorial answers, then Weslaco, then McCall Memorial, the 16-16 at the half. Both teams kind of miss an extra point there, so 16-16. But third quarter defenses buckled down and we're held scoreless until 5:55 left in the fourth quarter. Chris Luna takes it himself. We've talked about him before. 7-yard touchdown run. It looks like they're on top. They're up 23-16 at this point. And what does Memorial do? 11 play, 65-yard drive, capped with a 1-yard touchdown run by Kane Coy. What does Patterson? Hey, doesn't even question it. Sends out his team. Took a while for that 2-point conversion to get going, though. The ref had to actually tell the band to stop playing because they were too loud, I guess. I don't know what was the situation there, but band had to stop playing. What do the fans do? They just get even louder, man. It sounded like the band never stopped playing. You can't tell the fans to be quiet, right? So, despite all that, Memorial gets in for the 2-point conversion with just over a minute left. Looks like the game's over, man. Memorial's got the lead. Weslaco High's down to one timeout. Then, that Panther magic, man, next kickoff, D'Angelo Gonzalez finds a hole on the outside, takes it over 90 yards for what would be the game-winning touchdown. Chris Luna hits Joseph Leal for the 2-point conversion to make it the 7-point game. And then Weslaco High's Enrique Rodriguez comes down with the interception there on the last play of the game to seal the win. And just what a moment, man. I mean, I think everyone kind of got quiet after that kickoff or after that touchdown by Kane Coy and that 2-point conversion, not knowing what to expect. That people probably were leaving already. And what Panthers just come out with a what a play by D'Angelo Gonzalez. I mean, 90-yard kickoff return for the win. Just exciting game there at the end. Wild 5 minutes there down the stretch, and just you talk about game of the week. This one might be end up being game of the year, to be honest, the way it played out.
That was a big game there in the RGVSports.com game of the week between the Mustangs and Panthers. And Panthers, man, I mean, shoot, they look like one of the hottest teams here in the Rio Grande Valley, doing it back-to-back weeks over some big-time opponents. And now, I mean, guys, I think we got to touch on it. I know we had a few rivalry games this past week, Tri-City Classic, Bird Bowl, but I think no result was more shocking than what happened here in Edinburgh as the Edinburgh High Bobcats put a beat down on the Edinburgh SaberCats 19-6. First victory over the SaberCats by the Bobcats in well over 10 years. So just a really impressive win by the Bobcats to get that done against a rival, the school that's dominated not just the city of Edinburgh, but the kind of the Rio Grande Valley for several years. I mean, more than a decade. You know what I mean? District champions every year. Standards 10-0 every year, and then the Bobcats come in and shock the world last week. So yeah, and then of course, I mean, we got to recognize not only do the Bobcats get it done in a big way, but that was also Coach Joe Pena's first career win. So, Ivan, you're familiar with Coach Pena coming over from Westaco. Just your thoughts on the Bobcats and really that shocking result that they were able to get done last week against the SaberCats.
Yeah, I don't think Edinburgh could have hired a better coach than Joe Pena. I mean, he ran the offense there at Weslaco. We saw how adaptable and versatile that offense they could run, they could pass. Now he's bringing that over to Edinburgh High, and they've looked good. I think even their first week we were impressed with them. I mean, they played really tough against a really good Mercedes team, and then to go out and beat Vela for your first career win. I mean, that guy has just cemented himself there at Edinburgh High. I think I don't think he's ever gonna have to pay for a meal in Edinburgh. I don't know, man. So, but
Yeah,
really heck of a coach, man. And then he brings over his brother Greg Benya from Los Fresnos, was a special teams coordinator. He's running the offense there now. Just heck of a program building win for Coach Benya, and just excited to see where these Bobcats go from there. We were excited based off their starters, but now the coaching staff matches it too, I think.
Edinburgh High Bobcats, big win over the SaberCats, man. They get it done. Quarterback Aiden Sanchez throws one touchdown to Ethan Calderon, which ended up being the dagger to go up 19-0. Edinburgh Valley, they scored a touchdown, but that doesn't come until 58 seconds left in the fourth quarter. I mean, Edinburgh High controlled this thing from start to finish, man. Credit to them, man. I know, I mean, Coach MJ Garza, their defensive coordinator, does a hell of a job, and to not give up anything to the Edinburgh Valley SaberCats until the final minute of the game, once it was already three scores and out of reach. I mean, that's very impressive. So, congratulations to them. Woodrow Villarreal also gets in the end zone. Then the Bobcats defense, special teams, comes up with a safety there to make the 19 total. So 19-6, big win from the Edinburgh High Bobcats over the rival SaberCats. And yeah, it's just a huge shocker. And then now to keep it moving, I mean, we had that rivalry week theme, you know what I mean? Inner city battles all across the Rio Grande Valley. And we know every year we're going to get a banger between in the Bird Bowl between Harlingen High, Harlingen South. Edward, you were there to tell us what went down in this year's edition of the Bird Bowl.
A really physical game. Both teams were hitting really hard out there. I mean, it was a really physical game, and you expect that type of football at Harlingen High, and it's always kind of sometimes Harlingen South, they have a lot of physical players too. So, there's been the last couple of years, Harlingen High has been probably a little more physical team, right? And they've been able to pull out those close Bird Bowl wins, but the Hawks got their first win in the Bird Bowl since 2021. So big win for them. 17-0, shut out your rivals. They were the visitor side at Bogus, so it's always good to, in those rivalry games to be the away team to get the win on the home side. Marcus Garza, one of our, linebackers to watch, one of our players to watch, top 30 players, was a dog out there. Harlingen High, they struggle to push the ball up the field. Huerta's ankle is not 100%, and so they struggled a bit, but credit to the Hawks. They took care of the football for the most part. Schroeder threw a couple picks, but they're like, what I'm saying, they didn't have too much consequence because of the score. Um, Ty Palmer got those 2 picks for Harlingen High. One was in the end zone, so just you know what I'm saying to keep the game at 10-0, but you know the Hawks would end up scoring anyways. Caden Edwards, younger brother of Alvin Edwards, who had a solid season last year, got in the end zone late to make it 17-0. Cameron Love scored early to make it 7-0, and then Ovale, the field goal kicker slash punter, you know, that kid was a difference maker out there. You know, it's kind of sometimes you don't hear that with like special teams, but in tight physical ball games, like the field position is most important. You know what I'm saying? It's like just as important as anything. You know, special teams is kind of equal to offense and defense because of you could if you put somebody down at the 1 yard line and that offense is struggling, like, you know, you're gonna you're gonna get good field position back. You're gonna have a chance to score. You know what I'm saying? The Hawks starting field position was really close to midfield. You know what I'm saying? Like most of the game. So and Obali hit a 41 yarder. So shout out to the Hawks getting it done, getting their first win of the season. They had to play Flower Bluff, and interestingly enough, like the Cardinals had to play the SaberCats. Like we talked about, like the SaberCats right now. So two teams kind of struggling offensively. They're both traditionally physical. You know, could be one of those 6-3 football games. You know, 7-10. You know,
Baseball
between the
score.
Cardinals and yeah, baseball score football game. But
Yeah.
those two programs, you know, are going to be desperate for that win. So that sets up those games had consequences to set up, you know, week 3 nicely, you know, with a lot of decent matchups.
Yeah, definitely. And then to keep things going through the our inner city rivalry trend there in week 2, I mean, one team that definitely did not struggle, the PSG North Raiders. I mean, guys, they're just on another level. I think. I mean, Ethan Guerra, 185 yards, 5 touchdowns, and you know what I mean. That's because he's not playing most fourth quarters, and even some of the third. You know what I mean. He hasn't played a fourth quarter in 2 games this year. Played part of the third last week, part of the third this past week. So, yeah, man, the PSG North Raiders, they're the real deal. And Ethan Guerra, I mean, just proving why he was, you know what I mean, atop our RGVSports.com top 30 player rankings list. And then, so yeah, they get it done. Another game I think we got to touch on. Ivan, you touched on him earlier, but that's our number 2. It's quarterback by our number 2 player in the RGVSports.com top 30 player rankings. Los Fresnos picks up a 38-24 win over Rowe. This was a good game going into the fourth quarter. Late there, but Los Fresnos finds a way to pull away. And but I mean, yeah, one of the biggest takeaways I think Los Fresnos. I mean, you find ways to win, right? But Rowe, man, what they've been able to do these first 2 weeks, first to open up the season with the kind of a little bit of surprising win over Harlingen South, and especially seeing what South did this past week against Harlingen. You know what I mean? That row win over Harlingen South on the road, looking even more impressive. And then they come and row holds their own against Los Fresnos, which is not just one of the best teams in the valley. They're probably one of the best teams here in the 6A level or in South Texas, regardless of classification. So. Yeah, big win there by Los Fresnos, and another strong showing by the Warriors, even in defeat. So, guys, any other games you want to touch on? I know we had a few other good ones across the valley. I know we touched on that. We already touched on that Rivera and Edinburgh North thriller that we had. But Ivan, any more games that you thought that we should touch on here in the week 2 recap?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about it in the top five rankings, but Rio Hondo picks up a huge win there against Port Isabel. You know, and like I mentioned, Rojondo's young, but they look good early on. I mean, they jumped out to a 14-0 lead against Port Isabel, and this is when they were kind of inexperienced showed because Port Isabel came back and tied that one. But Mario Lopez, man, heck of a special player, you know, just takes over there in that second half, breaks a 64-yard run after the tie, sparked a 21-0 run by the Bobcats there. He finished the game with 11 carries, 181 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Defense came up with some big plays too. They had a strip sack after that 64-yard touchdown, setting up another Lopez touchdown, and then junior quarterback Matthew Lopez with a 1 yard QB sneak there to cap that 21-0 run. And you know, PI got on the board a little late. Ramos scored the touchdown and make it a 2 possession game again, but you know it was too little, too late. Rio Hondo looks good, man, and you know they're 2-0, and just you know you can't. Yeah, PI's 0-2, but they've played 2 tough teams to start the season, and you can't knock them for that, and it just makes that win by Rio Hondo even more impressive. So shout out the Bobcats and Coach Rocky James, heck of a job they're doing there at Rio Hondo, and excited to see what else they can do the rest of the year, man.
Yeah, and another game that I'd like to touch on quickly. Mission Eagles get their first win of the season, and head coach Jody Cantu, who's formerly the defensive coordinator there at Edinburgh Vela, gets his first win, and it's in a comeback effort over Westaco East as Mission High picks up a 28-26 win uh, over the Wildcats, and I mean. Really impressive performance by Mission High. I mean, we know how good defense Westaco East plays their sound every year. They got some guys that'll come up and hit you. And Mission High, after not scoring any points there in week one against their rival Mission Veterans, they come up and drop 28, including a little fourth quarter surge there to take down Westaco East. So congratulations to the Mission High Eagles on that big win, getting in the win column here. And then, yeah, guys, any other games you think we should touch on here before we move into our week three preview?
The La Jolla's they've been taking care of business. La Jolla High and La Jolla Palmview, they both 2-0 in the season, kind of going, they're out there, all the way out there, miles away in the desert. All those teams out there, but no, they're taking care of it. La Jolla Palmview could be 3-0 after this week. They play both of them could be 3-0 after this week and might even start, getting these considerations for our top 10. La Jolla High has, Mendoza, who's a beast, and Palmview, they made it to playoffs last year in a tough district, that district with Mac High, Edinburghville, and all that stuff. So, hey, you never know. They could be one of those teams in that district is looking really competitive, like you talked about Monroe and stuff, and Mac High playing good football. Cal Memorial, they're in our top 10 too. So, interesting. Interesting wins from both those teams. Interesting starts for both of them as well.
Yeah, I know it's early, but that playoff race is definitely going to be one to watch. Six,
Mhm.
I think, really quality teams are there in the eight-team district that have proven that they can play, and yeah,
Mhm.
that'll be fun to watch definitely down the stretch once district play starts for them in a couple weeks in that eight-team district. So, guys, I mean that wraps up and puts a bow on our week two recap. Now, time to dive in through to this week three slate. And as always, we start with our RGVSports.com game of the week. And this one features a couple of our top sub 5A squads. And this is the La Feria Lions at the Raymondville Bearcats, 7 p.m. Friday. Guys, your thoughts on this matchup? I mean, two of the best sub 5A squads going at it here in Willacy County.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll be there. Oh, whoa, my bad,
go
bro.
for it,
My
bro.
bad. Nah,
We'll
nah.
be
I'll be
out there. What,
there.
what, what can you tell us, man?
I'm. This is like they haven't been in the district together. Lafayette and Raymondville. It's like they used to be, 32 4A, big rivalry and stuff, or 16 4A, or even in other sports. So, I'm excited to see Washington Lefevre versus, see how they could do against a Lafayette team that's peaking in that, Ivan knows a lot more about than I do. And what do you think, Ivan, of this game?
I mean, I think it's a very interesting matchup, man. I mean, La Feria, like I said, they've really bought into Coach Craig Foster. You got our newcomer of the year last year, Eddie Alvarado, there at linebacker, solid defender there. And then on offense, you got a quarterback in Jaden Martinez, who kind of got thrown in there last year after Andrew Rivera got hurt. So he's got some reps already, and he's looked good early on. He threw for over 200 yards in their first two games. I think at least two touchdowns in both of them. And then, like I mentioned, those two running backs, Titus Guzman and Noah LaFleur, just a two-headed monster there in the backfield. I think they're combined, they're over 350 yards, about 4 or 5 touchdowns combined. And but the other side of the ball, I mean, Jeffrey Lefevre, he's young, but he's shown him some promise. He's thrown over 150 both games. Hasn't had to throw much when you got a guy like Trayshawn Washington back there, man. I mean, he's leads the valley in rushing, over 230 yards in each of his games, 6 touchdowns. I mean, dude's been hard to stop. So can this Lafayette defense slow him down? Is going to be the interesting part on the other side of the ball. Raymondville has allowed some points early on, so what can they do against this La Feria offense that has weapons at every level? So definitely an interesting one. It's going to be a big one there at Willacy County, and who knows, maybe at the end of next week we'll have a new number one.
what's that offensive lineman's name?
Randy
Brian.
Pedraza, hey, you can't forget
Randy
that guy.
Pedraza.
He might throw all
What is
three
it?
of us
Yeah.
around if we do. That's my bad, bro.
Yeah. Hey, it was because Brian, the powerlifting and all that stuff too. So that's why hey, so I want to see, I want to see him up close and personal too. See him
Yeah,
against those Lafayette kids because those Lafayette kids are tough too. They're well conditioned too. Like their offensive line and in recent years are, they can get after it. So
the D line will get to know him very well. I think we got one of our favorite pictures over the past few years is I've seen at RGV Sports is actually of Randy Pedraza pancaking somebody in the end zone. I forgot who it was. It might have been against Lyford. No disrespect to Lyford, but you know what I mean. Hey, it's football. People get pancaked and win and lose reps every
mhm,
play. You know what I mean. And Randy's he's a dog man.
yeah,
So yeah, that should be a good one, man. I'm expecting fireworks. Lafayette, Raymondville. That one's going to be a good one. Two of the best squads going at it. And like you said, kind of locking horns, former district foes. So. That one should be a good one. And guys, to run through things, let's start with that Thursday slate. Um, let's keep it going. Ivan, we've talked about the Bobcats. I think plenty coming off their big win, deservedly so. So why don't we start those this week through preview as we start Thursday with the Edinburgh High Bobcats.
Yeah, so this Thursday I'll be out at Richard R. Florida Stadium for a game between Hannah and Edinburgh High, and on paper it looks like Edinburgh High has the clear advantage. Hannah's 0-2, Edinburgh High's 1-1 coming off that victory over against Vela, but you got to look at who Hannah's played early on. They opened the season against a really good McCallum Memorial School. Last week they played Sherilyn High. They lost both games by 2 scores, but I mean, they've shown they can put up points against these teams and, maybe hang around. So it'll be interesting to see that one. But, on the other hand, you have Edinburgh High coming off that big win we talked about already. That defense looks solid. So, but biggest question I think for Edinburgh High right now is will we see that offense get going? Obviously, they've drawn two tough tests, two in Mercedes and Vela. They have strong defenses over there. So will this be the game we finally see their offense kind of, burst free? Solid showings, but we haven't seen that breakout offense, that big play offense. So, last
Yeah,
year
and
Edinburgh High got that 28-20 win over Brownsville Hannah. So I mean, it could end up being a close one, but I mean, that's this Thursday, 7 p.m. at Richard Florida Stadium. I think we'll be in for a surprisingly good one there.
yeah, and to give credit to the Edinburgh Bobcats offense, they played two of the best defenses. I
Yeah.
know that they put it on at Edinburgh Vela, but that Mercedes defense is really good there in week one. And then I know the Sabercats lost, but that defense, that Vela defense, is really good. They were in position a lot of times against Edinburgh High, man. But hey, man, this Bobcats just found ways to make plays. And one thing I didn't mention earlier when we were talking about Edinburgh's win over Edinburgh Vela, they held the Sabercats to 3 rushing yards. Three. You count them on one hand. So that's crazy for a rushing attack. You know what I mean? An offense at Vela known for, you know what I mean, being balanced and doing everything. The Bobcats really took it to them. So yeah, shout out once again to that Edinburgh High defense, and then to keep things rolling there. On our Thursday games. I mean, guys, we got a fun one. Mission veterans at PSJ High, two passing offenses. Guys, plenty familiar with each other. We got Coach Gilpin on Mission veterans side and Lupe Rodriguez leading that PSJ High side. Both of those guys played at Mission, former Mission Eagles. And then, of course, a cool little note on this one. Quarterbacks coach for Mission Veterans is, of course, Mr. Texas Football, Landry Gilpin. And then on the PSJ High side, Lupe Rodriguez's son plays quarterback for the PSJ High Bears. So a cool note, you know what I mean? They say football is family, and then these two are going to go at it, and then they're going to hug afterwards and everything. So this should be a good game. I'm excited to see this one. Mission Veterans has looked really good this year. PSJ High, they looked good in week one, although in a close loss against Sharyland Pioneer. And then, of course, I mean, I don't know many teams that are going to look pretty against PSG North. So no knock on the Bears. We'll see how they can bounce back this week coming up against Mission Veterans and Edward. I mean, what we got some other big games going on this week. Let's close off our Thursday action.
yeah,
To the Chargers. I mean, one of the best programs here in recent years here in the Rio Grande Valley.
yeah. I think we expect them to, have a good show in this game. The Montez we talked about, Trevelyan, 11 carries, 4 touchdowns, a couple hundred yards. ridiculous, right? Those are like big plays. Is he averaging like 20 yards a carry or something?
19.6.
Um,
Yeah.
huh?
19.6, close enough.
Not yeah, yeah, yeah. We round we you gotta round we gotta round
Yeah,
these
they just rounded
numbers.
up to 20 pretty much.
Um, so I mean it's a long trip from Rio Grande City to Brownsville Veterans. So see how they get off if Rio Grande City can get off the bus, fine. Like, and that's, people talk about that in all sports, right? For these kids, these long drives, like Los Fresnos is going to have to take a trip to Laredo, early season trip. That's kind of like you treat those games like playoffs, like, we want to make sure that, you get rest on the bus and you come off and you get a good warm up, you know what I'm saying? Like, so you could be ready. And, so that Vets game, they haven't really been tested so far this year, right? And maybe we thought maybe St. Joe's would have been better, give them a better test, and so um, I think they
Got to
should
give
take
a
care
shout
of
out to Gavin
business.
Cisneros though. He still did his thing there. He had almost
Yeah,
yards.
he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the
Yeah,
Valley.
without a
And
doubt.
another game, real quick for Thursday, McCown Memorial versus San Antonio Johnson. San Antonio Johnson on paper looks pretty good. They beat Piper and Conference Judson. 2-0. So I mean, those are like good teams in that area, right? Like, Converse Justin perennially, I don't know how good they've been recently. I haven't really heard too much about Converse Justin, but still a good win. And Piper is one of those newer schools in that New Braunfels area, closer to San Antonio, that gets a lot of good Como area that get a lot of good players, a lot of good athletes out there. So again, it's in a neutral site, so you got to treat it as like a playoff game. And that's pretty much it. Thursday, really, that pops out.
Yeah, yeah, no, and then that wraps up the Thursday look at Thursday's games, and then just dive into District 15 5A D1. I mean, they start district play this week, and opening up that state, we got Rivera at Corpus Christi Vets, Donna North at PSG North, and then Flower Bluff at Harlingen South. Flower Bluff and South, of course, playoff teams from a year ago. Flower Bluff won a share of that three-way district title with PSG North and Corpus Christi Vets. Harlingen South earns the 4 seed there. And this will be an interesting matchup. I mean, it's a completely new Flower Bluff team. They lost a lot. I know they got a transfer in there, and Lucian Cruz taking over at quarterback. But Harlingen South, man, they came to play last week. We know how good that defense is, and I think they kind of hurt themselves in that week 1 game against Rowe a little bit here and there. So we'll see what they look like coming out at home against Flower Bluff this Friday. That is District 15 5A D1, the first district here in the Rio Grande Valley to open up district play. And then, guys, we got some other big games going on across the Rio Grande Valley. I mean, and one that I think may have lost a little luster, but definitely one that we got to touch on, guys. It's Harlingen High Cardinals visiting the Edinburgh Vela SaberCats. I mean, guys, this is just a chance for these teams to rebound, and one of them's going to fall to possibly 0-3 or 1-2 and have a losing record, and the other one, it's a real chance to rebound against between two just of the most storied programs. Ivan, just your thoughts on this game coming up here between the SaberCats and the Cardinals.
Yeah, I think defensively Harlingen High has been pretty sound. It's the offense that's been in question, and it's going to be, can they figure it out against these Vela SaberCats? I mean, they've been running the two quarterback system with Gavin Cisneros and Hassan Woolery. Both have shown some flashes. Gavin had a 50-yard touchdown run in that week 1 loss to Weslaco High. And Hassan Woolery has made some plays with his arm and his leg, but can they figure it out offensively? I think a lot of it goes back to Noah Huerta. I mean, I don't think he's 100% yet. I think he's still dealing with that ankle injury. So you're not getting an easy task with Bella. I mean, you mentioned that defense. That defense is tough. They got guys like OJ Cano, Sergio Briones, Caden Hoover, who had five picks week 1. I mean, they got some dogs there on defense. But I mean, with Vela, you mentioned the same thing. Can they figure out that offense? Yeah, they put up 38 against Edinburgh North, but Edinburgh North's not the Cardinals either. And they struggled against Edinburgh High, which obviously we mentioned already has a really good defense. So it's going to be whose offense can either create the most opportunities, or if someone's defense just has a big day. And I think both defenses are capable of that.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a game to watch. That I mean, you know what I mean. When you look at the names, definitely a marquee matchup. But I mean, coming to this year, two teams that have struggled here through 2 weeks. So yeah, looking forward to seeing the result in that one. Then we got some other good games going on across the Rio Grande Valley. I think, I mean, hey, why don't we touch on this one? I mean, matchup of 2-0. The La Jolla High Coyotes, Brownsville Pace Vikings, fellas. Your thoughts on both these squads? 2-0 on the year, done some real good things here, and looking to keep it rolling into week three.
I mean, Edward mentioned it. These La Jolla teams have been pretty good early on, man. I mean, La Jolla High, we already know Mauricio Mendoza. He was one of the top running backs last year. He's kind of kept it going this year. 283 yards and 2 touchdowns last week against Lopez. But I think what makes the Coyotes so dangerous this year is not just him. You got Owen Benoit at quarterback. This is his third year starting. He's a junior now. But I mean, 18 of 29 for 325 yards, 6 touchdowns, and more importantly, 0 interceptions through the first 2 games. I mean, not anything blowing you out of the water, but 162 passing yards a game is pretty impressive to start the year. And then you got a receiver in Dante Pettis, one of the top receivers in the Valley through 2 weeks, 6 catches, 189 yards, 3 touchdowns. So that, Mendoza seems like he's got some help this year, man. And then you got Samuel Olivares giving him some time there too. He's over 200 rushing yards to start the year as well. So some more weapons there for La Jolla. I think this has been a kind of a building, and last week they picked up win number 2. It surpasses their win total from the last 2 years combined, ties their win total from 3 years ago when they went to the playoffs. So, this La Jolla team is really good, but Pace, they made the playoffs last year and they're coming off that, exciting win over Bishop, 35-34. David Melendez, 3 touchdowns in that one. And we know Pace has weapons. David Melendez, he's a big time playmaker. He's going to go up and get the ball. So how does La Jolla's defense answer to that? And vice versa, how does Pace's defense answer to that three-headed monster they got there in Owen Benoit, Mauricio Mendoza, and Dante Pettis? So should be a very exciting one there. That one's at Brownsville Sports Park Friday at 7 p.m. And I'll be out at that one. So I'm excited to see these two teams clash in that one.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game. And then another good game that we're looking forward to. I mean, we talked about Rowe and what they've looked like early on this year. Now they got another tough test, man. I mean, hey, this Rowe schedule, man, it's tough, man. They opened up with South and then Los Fresnos, and then now here they are, week three, taking on the Mercedes Tigers. So 3 playoff teams from a year ago. We know Rowe wasn't in the playoffs, or it's been a couple of years since Rowe's been in the playoffs, and now Jamar Taylor hasn't playing you know what I mean, at a high level, playing some really good football right now. Even a strong showing in that loss against Los Fresnos, and then Mercedes. We've seen what they've been doing. I mean, they look really good. I mean, 21 points on the Bobcats defense. That's starting to look really impressive. You know what I mean? And 7 of those points was on a pick six. So that just tells you how good that Memorial. Excuse me, that Mercedes team is. You know what I mean? The balance on offense, on defense, players on both sides of the ball that can make things happen. And this game should be another good test for Mercedes because I mean we know they finished second there in district there last year in 16-5 AD2. They're not too happy about it because of who they finished second to. So they're coming out for a district title this year, and this is another chance to really prove in non-district play that hey we mean business when we say we're coming for that 16-5A D2 title. And then Rowe, man, just another opportunity against another good team. I mean, for Rowe, I mean, shoot, man, you just want to see the Warriors play well, which they have been doing. You know what I mean? Because I mean, for them, I mean, they have an outside shot at that district title there in 15-5 AD 16-5 AD1. Don't want to count them out. But I mean, they just want to get back in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Take things one step at a time. And I think they've proven through these first 2 games and have another opportunity to do so this week that this road team can really play and can hang with some of the Valley's best. So yeah, looking forward to this one. Rowe at Mercedes, 7 p.m. Friday, and then we've got Edward. We got a good one between some of our squads. I mean, 5AD1, 5AD2, Ed Couch Elsa and McAllen High. I know you've seen Mac High this year. I saw Elsa plenty last year, and Elsa's 1-1 coming into this week. So your thoughts on that Elsa at Mac High matchup and what that one should look like?
Yeah, I'm really high on the McAllen schools this year. They're really physical, they're really big, they got a lot of playmakers. So that's gonna be a tough game for Red Couch. That's like a real they need to keep that game close. Which I mean they could, they got some good defensive players, right, that we highlighted, and then Derek Cardenas is off to a great start to the season on that defensive line. So if they could, you know, I don't know, even if they try and stop the run and get, because McCoy Wolfhurst is like, leading the Valley in passing, like, and Finn Henderson, that kid is, I think he's one of the best receivers I've seen so far. Or like, you know what I'm saying? In like the last couple of years, I mean, that kid is really good, man. Like, he could do. He's not physically imposing like his size, but man, he gets open. He reminds me of like all those little, those smaller receivers in the NFL, like all the Patriots receiver, all the Patriots receivers basically. Um, or like my boy Hunter Renfro. So I think he's good, man.
Cole
So I don't
Beasley.
know. I think that, but the Couch has some good DBs, so it's going to be interesting. But even Los Fresnos had some good DBs. They couldn't guard Finn Henderson. Um, so I don't know. Like, I think Mackay should take care of business, but I don't think Couch is a bad team. And Mission Veterans beat them last week. Um, they're solid accounts. Like nothing bad about them. They lost some offensive players from last year. Graduated. So I think they're just they have a really tough schedule, so they're going to come along. And still be able to compete with Mercedes, and that game should be really good. But I mean, I really like Mercedes too. And just to be honest, how I feel about these teams. Like I think Mercedes. I think it's their district title to lose, really. It's kind of you don't really want to put like I could be wrong though, but I think it's their district title to lose, and but that Mackay Edcouch Chelsea game is really interesting. I've just been really only interested in Lafayette and Raymondville to be honest with you, because this is the game. I saw that like a week ago. I was like, oh man, I gotta. Hopefully, I could be there for that one. But like we talked about, La Villa Santa Rosa. I think that game, is important for Santa Rosa. 3-0. They're going to start district soon, and they play a lot of teams from up north. So that should be a good game for them. And that's pretty much it. I think this is besides the games that oh, Sherryland High and Mission High, just because of that area. The Sherryland Mission is maybe Sherryland could rise up and make their own town soon, right? They need to break off a mission and stuff. So maybe some of that, like those kids are next to each other, so they should, be rivals, in some sort of way, like sporting ways, right? They should want to play each other and stuff, Just how like if you're in a mid valley, you know what I'm saying? Like you would want to play other mid valley teams, or like if you're in the lower valley, Brownsville, Los Fresno, you know what I'm saying? Like you should want to play against each other and stuff. So I think that should be a pretty competitive game. Just how Mission bounced back. Um, Sharyland High is, one of our best teams too. So that should be an interesting game.
Yeah, definitely some really good games here on the week three slate, and it all starts off Thursday, continues into Friday. Then we got another good one Saturday. I mean, Westaco High going on the road, against Laredo Johnson. So yeah, that'll be an interesting trip to see how Westaco performs on the road. I mean, got to travel 2 to 3 hours away. That's like, you know what I mean, kind of one of those playoff fields where you got to get on the bus and lock in.
Yeah.
So we'll see if Westaco can take care of business here. They're our number three team in the RGVSports.com 5A, 6A top 10 rankings. And guys, I mean, that wraps up our week three preview. Anything you want to leave the people with, the listeners with, any shots you want to call, things people need to keep an eye on here as we enter week three of the regular season?
Yeah, I just want to tell people to go to our website, man. We worked tirelessly over the weekend to update our stats. We got all the passing, rushing, scoring, defensive, touchdown, interception. We got all the leaders on there. If you don't see your stats, tell your coach to send us an email because we probably don't got them. But if they're on Max Preps, if they're been emailed to us, we got them up there. So if you want to look up all your stats, see where you rank or where your favorite player ranks, make sure to visit football.rgvsports.com. We got them all there for you. That's all I got to say.
Edward, anything you want to leave the people with before we say goodbye?
Mm. No, not this time. Next time, though. Next time, maybe.
No, I feel you, man. And so, hey, as always, you can catch everything at rgvsports.com and the stats at football.rgvsports.com. And you can find your way there just by visiting rgvsports.com as well. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Go check out our UTRGV football highlights that we got there. I mean, that week one banger, and then of course we got that week two game on the road there for Prairie View A&M. Go check that out. All the post game interviews, post game highlights we're doing at the high school level. I mean, we got it all there at rgvsports.com. Your number one leader in coverage of high school college and professional sports here in the Rio Grande Valley. So thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the RGVSports.com football podcast. We'll catch you next time.